Aloha and welcome to Is This For Real? This is Gregory Dunn. I'm the President and CEO of Hawaii's Better Business Bureau. Today we're really fortunate. We have two incredible people from our community that are visiting with us. We have Douglas Chin, who is our State Attorney General.
Aloha.
Aloha. And Hugh Jones, the Deputy Attorney General in the Tax and Charity Supervision Department.
Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know, Doug, we've known each other around town for a while, and you've had a phenomenal career in public service in town. You've been a prosecuting attorney, you've been prosecutor, you've been a managing director at the city, and now as the state's chief enforcement officer.
That's right.
And lead attorney.
Yeah.
You have a big challenge.
Yes, I'm really grateful to be able to be at the Attorney General's office now, and I think it's actually it's a good opportunity to be able to serve the community, and especially when it comes to issues such as committing fraud against people in our community. The AG's office is always very interested in prosecuting people, going after organizations that are targeting people who in our community who end up being victimized by these scam artists.
Well, and it's a growing problem as we see it. We continue to get more and more calls from folks that are taken advantage of. How big of a problem is it that you see in terms of the widespread nature of scams?
You know, scams, I think, adjust to the technology that's existing, and I think one of the toughest things is that the population isn't always keeping up with the different ways that people are thinking about how to scam you. So when I really think about target of the population that really suffers from this, then I think about people who are elderly, because they are not necessarily keeping up with different ways or the new ways that a scam artist is going to be trying to commit some sort of fraud against them. And so that's why I appreciate a show like this, because it gives people the chance to be able to think about whether or not something is for real when they're getting that phone call or that solicitation.
You know, it's amazing when you think about the number of ways that we have that we're connected in our lives. And as you said, you know, particularly with seniors, where they may not be as savvy or understand fully the technology, and they'll have, for example, a caller ID, and something will come up on the caller ID. And I know, Hugh, we were talking about this earlier, that even your family got a call and said, "Oh my goodness, the IRS called us." I mean, well, can you talk about that technology just for a minute, about that caller ID thing? As like,
yeah, you know, under federal law, callers are supposed to display their caller carrier ID signal, although charities are actually exempt from that requirement. So it's often hard to determine whether a legitimate charity is calling you. In my case, I had someone informing me that the IRS was going to sue me for delinquent taxes when I knew quite well that I was current in my tax obligations.
And so oftentimes they'll mask that caller ID. It'll come up and it'll say they're the IRS or they're from this organization or that organization. And in reality, it turns out it's someone in offshore in Eastern Europe or Jamaica or somewhere that's simply trying to separate you from your hard-earned dollars.
That's correct. And that is one of the top ways that people are committing fraud against victims. It's that they call people up and they identify themselves as if they're with the U.S. federal government, or they're with the state government, and they're saying that you're in trouble now, and they put that stress upon the person who's getting the phone call, so that they automatically start feeling like they need to immediately respond by doing something that exposes them to vulnerability, such as by giving away their social security number or some other form of identification.
So do you know of any state agency that would call someone, or the federal government that would call someone out of the blue like that? Is that standard practice to do?
Absolutely not. And I think that is probably the key thing to remember, is to be highly suspicious if somebody's just calling you out of the blue and scaring you by saying that I'm with the IRS and you need to start paying money right now. The flip side is, I think, when somebody calls up and says, you've actually won something really terrific, you know, you won $1 million. And I think both of those are designed to get your emotions moving into a place where you're not thinking as clearly, and so then you're more likely to give away information that can be troublesome.
Right. People get excited. The folks that are perpetuating these frauds really want to try and get you in what they call the ether. It's like they get you under the spell, and it's like they're building your confidence, they're getting you excited, whether it's either you're excited in a bad way or excited in a good way, because then you're not thinking rationally. In terms of senior citizens, I mean, what are some of the other things that your offices had to deal with? I know that we have people reaching out and asking for information, but there's also the unfortunate part where you have problems with family members that may take advantage of their kapuna. And what sort of situations do you see in your department where that's happened?
Sure. I think that some ways that that relatives can be impacted by something like this is that they are often feeling like they're the caregivers, or that they need to watch out for mom and dad, especially when they're hearing about some sort of scam that they're suspicious of. And I think that's a really difficult thing for other caregivers, because then they start feeling like they could potentially be taken advantage of as well. I know another way that this impacts families, and that's where this is a really tough circumstance against the entire community, not just senior citizens, is that sometimes when grandma or grandpa gets a fraud that's committed against them, then they don't want to admit that to their children, because it's shameful. It implies that they're not completely competent in everything, and it makes the kids feel like they need to do something to take care of them. And so rather than admit that vulnerability, they'll just allow the scam to go through and not say anything. And that's probably something that's most troubling about all this, is that it becomes an underreported crime.
Yeah, I know before we were kind of talking about how, we have certain statistics for what's reported, but we have no idea how much really happens out there. So much of it goes unreported that people are embarrassed, they're ashamed. Seniors oftentimes are afraid they may lose their control if the kids take it away. There are all sorts of things in public embarrassment that they're afraid of, or causing shame to the kids. But it's important to report those when they happen, right?
Right, absolutely, because we in law enforcement can't really take action unless we know that this kind of conduct is occurring out there, and so it's not something I think part of the reason why we're having that's good about having a show like this is to help people see this is a common problem. This is something that happens for everybody, and the best thing to do is just be able to report it and let people know, so that way the law enforcement authorities, whether it's us, whether it's the police or the prosecutors, they get a chance to be able to crack down on it.
I think something that's important for people to realize is that we use the term scam a lot, and I think that the term scam minimizes and diminishes the true nature of the crime, which is a fraud. In most cases, it's a felony, which is serious. If you're a felon, you can't vote, you can't hold public office, you can't do many things, and it's a serious crime. And the crime of fraud of taking money from someone under false pretenses is pretty serious, isn't it?
Right, and if you commit a felony, that's a maximum prison sentence of up to 5 years, and it can, like you said, there's other penalties that can come of it. So really, that just shows you how even the community considers fraud to be a very serious crime.
And that makes it all the more important for people to be sure to report it when it happens.
Right.
And this may have happened to you, but if it's happening to you, it's happening to dozens of other people in the community. That's one of the reasons that the Better Business Bureau put up our scam tracker on our Hawaii website. We have a product where people go in and it's crowdsourcing of information of what frauds and scams are happening in the community, so that if people have questions, they can log in and check it out. Or if seniors have questions, we have people that are manning the Hawaii Partnership Against Fraud phones, so they can call in and get information by talking to a live person, because a lot of seniors don't have access to the internet still. So, Hugh, you have a real interesting title. We were talking about how long it was. You're Deputy Attorney General. I know that from having worked with you in the past that not only are you on the tax side, but you also deal with charities. I know that we've had opportunities in the community in the past where we've had some problems with charities and with people having fraudulent charity solicitations. Can you tell us a little bit about your department and what your background is?
Sure. Well, I supervise the division that not only represents our tax agency, but I help fulfill the AG's role in providing charitable oversight over the charitable sector, and that includes charitable solicitation. We have thousands of charities, both here in Hawaii and from the mainland, reaching into Hawaii, asking for donations for charitable purposes. And the Attorney General's role in this area is to protect donors so that they can give safely to good philanthropy. Hawaii is filled with generous people, the spirit of aloha, and we're eager to give. But unfortunately, there are a number of organizations that simply aren't charitable at all, or actually devoting a very small percentage of your donation to the charitable purpose they represent over the phone or through the mail. So our job is to protect donors and to protect good charities.
And you had a major breakthrough on a case recently that we worked together on, and so maybe you could tell us a little bit about what happened with that particular charity.
Sure. Attorney General Chin and the Attorney Generals of 49 other states just sued a group of related cancer charities, the Cancer Fund of America, the Breast Cancer Society, and two others who nationally have raised over $180 million over a number of years, representing that the donations would be used for victims of cancer. Regrettably, 98% of that money was actually spent on things other than cancer victims. The executives, their relatives, trips to Disneyland, cruises,
golf club memberships,
golf club memberships, college educations for their children, and the list goes on and on. So significantly, we were able to shut down two of those charities and recover nearly $1 million. And the litigation against the two others goes on in a federal district court in Arizona. So it's the first time that 50 attorneys general have joined together to try to put an end to charitable solicitation fraud.
Right.
And when we think about that, and I'll see which one of you wants to jump in on this, but when you think about that, you know, the donors gave up $180 million of people. They were, and as I recall, a lot of it was telephone solicitation. People were, you know, robodialing. They're getting calls constantly, asking people for money. What are some of the red flags that someone at home who may get a phone call or a solicitation in the mail, what are the things they should be looking at and aware of that would have been a red flag that it was problematic to give to those charities?
One of the things that really caught my attention when when we were getting ready to prosecute this case was there was actually a recording that one of the investigators had made of somebody calling someone to ask them to give money to this Cancer Fund Society of America, and when that phone call was made, right away you could hear the person who was the recipient of this phone call feeling very sympathetic, because they'd be saying, "Hello, I'm calling you from the Cancer Fund of America. This is, would you like to give some money to be able to help stop cancer?" Well, of course, everybody's going to want to do something like that, and that's one of the things that you were referring to earlier when you were saying if it plays upon your emotions, that starts impacting your judgment. And so one of the things to watch for is that in that moment, the next question that will come out is, well, can you give me your bank account number, or can you give me your social security number, and we can take care of this transaction right away, and you'll feel great about it because you'll have given money right away. That's the type of thing to watch for.
So number one is the emotion. If someone is trying to pluck that heartstring right off the bat, and number two is if they ask you for a credit card, bank, or personal information like your social security number.
That's correct.
And don't fall victim to high-pressure sales tactics. You don't have to give at that moment. There are a variety of tools that are available to you as a donor to make an educated donation decision. For example, I would be very reluctant to donate to any charity that isn't registered with the Attorney General's office or has not been granted an exemption. Their registration data is available through the internet to everyone. Their financial and operational data annually.
You even said that the state of Hawaii has an app that we're the only state that has an app on for both Android and iPhone, right?
That's right. It's called Hawaii Charity Finder, and it's free in those stores, and you can actually research our charity registry using a tablet or smartphone. I would be reluctant to give to a charity that refuses to give more information about their location or their address or their identity. Be sure to ask if it's a paid fundraiser calling you and how much of your donation is kept by the fundraiser.
See, in the state of Hawaii, do they have to tell you that?
If you ask that question, they have to tell you that. On the other side, we collect that data from the paid fundraiser and we make it available to the public online so that you can consult that our internet site first before you give and find out exactly what percentage of your donation is going to go to that charity.
Because I think in the case we were just talking about, it was something about, it was a phenomenal amount of money that the professional fundraiser kept. Was it 90%?
Yes, and we call those charities 10% charities because they get the 10% that's left at the end of the day, and of that 10%, regrettably, much of it is not spent on the charitable mission. And so there's a lot of information out there to educate donors. Go to the IRS website to make sure that your donation is tax deductible, for example. Go to the Better Business Bureau. There are charity rating services like Charity Navigator and the American Institute of Philanthropy. So there's just robust tools out there for donors to make better informed giving decisions.
And Greg, something I wanted to underscore is that giving to a charity is a great thing. You know, that's actually a very important value that I think we all celebrate, and I think even the IRS gives you a benefit for donating to a charity. But I think underneath all that, we want to just make sure that if you're going to be giving your money to a cause, that's actually being spent on the cause that you're wanting to give it to. And so I think part of part of what's good about this kind of effort is that by identifying the bad players, you're able to start realizing, well, these are the good charities. These are the ones that are really going to be able to take your money and then be able to use it for something that's really going to help out whatever you're trying to help out. I want people who are watching at home to realize they should give to charities, but just be very, very careful about how you do that, and don't simply react on emotion for whoever's calling you, but really think about, these are the values that are important to me, these are the charitable organizations I'd like to give it, and research it up front, so that way you can be able to make a wise decision.
I always tell my my parents, because they call and ask me for advice. I don't know why, but they call and someone called on this, and I got this in the mail. I'm like, well, did you go on did you on that website? Did you pull down their annual report? Is the first thing. Annual report. They're required to file. They're required to tell you what their balance sheet is, what they spent the money on, what are their program outcomes, who are they really helping, how many people did they help, is it credible? Can you verify it with another source? Don't just give money because someone asked you to or someone told you to. Make sure it's something you care about, because you worked hard for your money. You want to make sure that you're doing good with it.
That's right, and I urge people to actually make a philanthropy plan at the beginning of the year. Decide ahead of time what charities you want to give to. Do your research. And as A.G. Chin just mentioned, our role here is to promote safe philanthropy, to protect this sector that is so important to Hawaii and America, and provide services that otherwise would have to be given by government itself. So it's a very robust sector, it's a very important sector, and ultimately the end game here is to protect philanthropy.
And it's so important in our community, and we have so many great charities that are doing really wonderful things to help those that are in need. And the more money that gets sent offshore or to fraudulent charities, that's less money that's in the community helping folks that really need it.
And in fact, the Hawaii Community Foundation recent study has found that a larger percentage of donations are now going to mainland destinations rather than local destinations. So that's a growing trend in Hawaii.
That seems to be a little concerning. I mean, do we have any idea why that might be, or is it just the...
I think the suspicion is millennials who spend more time on social media sites and internet sites are tending to direct their donations to maybe mainland causes rather to the traditional local charities that we've all grown up with and have come to identify with.
That's fascinating. So you think it might be something to do with technology and people being able to donate, click this, GoFundMe accounts, I find that fascinating personally.
Absolutely.
That you as an individual could go and set up a GoFundMe account online, and then through social media it gets spread around to people that will give $5, $10, $15, $20.
Right, and this happens a lot also after natural disasters or civil defense events, where suddenly you're getting texts asking to give to the Hurricane Katrina Relief Fund. when significant percentage of that money never went to relief efforts. So be very extra careful around those kind of unfortunate events that pass through our community.
Again, that's anytime someone reaches out to you first and says, you should give this way.
Yeah,
that's
true.
something to watch out for.
Yep.
What other red flags are there besides that you can think of?
Yeah, you know, there's another type of fraudulent practice that I wanted to talk about, and that's what's known as sweetheart scams, where somebody is calling, or they meet you on social media or on the internet, and so you know they flatter you, they set up an emotional intimacy, or you know, some sort of romantic interest, and sadly this often happens to people who are senior citizens who are feeling lonely, you know, and you know, and not. They're needing some people to pay them a compliment, and which is a sad thing. But then what happens is then this person will say, after they establish that relationship, then they'll say, you know, can you wire me some money, because I really need that. Another example of that would be somebody calling up saying, I'm your grandchild, and you know, my voice sounds a little bit different because I'm out of the country, but I'm your grandchild, and I need you to be able to give me some money. Can you wire it immediately? And I wanted to mention that because I think that's especially the type of fraudulent practice that can make people feel embarrassed if they actually get caught up in it. You know, they don't want to admit, you know, gosh, you know, this person was you know, being so nice to me, and then I actually gave them money. You know, what an embarrassing thing to be able to say, and yet that is exactly what people who that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to be so embarrassed that you'll just, you know, give the money and then never report it. How sad, you know, and yet that is something that we really should be vigilant about and report, so that those guys can be prosecuted.
Absolutely, it's important to remove the stigma of, I've been taken advantage of, and I'm
Right.
ashamed, I don't want to talk about it,
Right.
or I'm afraid of the consequences of what might happen if I'm elderly, you know, this will get taken away from me, rather than maybe there's something I can do about it besides the prosecution. I mean, what are some of the things that people could do if they've been taken advantage of?
Well, if it's a charitable appeal, they should certainly contact the Attorney General's office. We have a dedicated email address, atgcharities@hawaii.gov. We have a phone number, 586-1480. They can contact us if it's a charitable appeal. Call the Better Business Bureau by all means.
Yeah, definitely, there are resources out there, and it all goes back to that point of do your research. It's like one of those things that my grandparents always said is, you know, buyer beware, right? And so if you're going out to buy a car, you don't just show up on the lot and sign the first deal that you have for a car that you just saw drive by.
I have a great example of that. I had a group of college-age kids come to my front door and say they were raising monies for a veterans relief cause for veterans of the war in Afghanistan. And I told them, look, I'd be a fool if I didn't take the advice I give to others, and that is do your research. So I got their information, and lo and behold, I found out that they were working for a for-profit company located in Portland and not working for a veterans charity. So research is an important thing that you need to do.
Maybe the kids didn't even know.
They were
college,
selling.
You know,
They didn't know. They were victims as well. They were sent to Hawaii, maybe with a one-way ticket.
We see those kind of things all the time. We just even recently had a fraud perpetrated on some college students that thought they were working for a delivery service on Maui. That someone had set up a fake website that, you know, the company didn't own their domain. Someone else set one up and said, okay, we want you to process packages. We're going to send you iPads and iPhones, and you're going to open up the box and take it out, take a picture of it, and then package it back up, and then print off this other mailing label from your computer, put it on the box, and just drop it off at the post office or at UPS. Not realizing that they were being paid to process stolen merchandise that was bought with stolen credit cards and participating in mail fraud. So those kind of things, again, they didn't do their research to find out that there was a problem.
We had Aloha United Way contact our office about a deaf charity that had a website with a donate button, and we found The United Way said, we have no relationship with this organization, and lo and behold, we found that all of those monies were going into a bank account in Great Britain.
You know, the case I was talking about with the folks on that set up the Maui website, it had a Better Business Bureau accredited business seal on it, and fortunately, because it had that seal, we were able to take action nationally and have the website shut down really quickly. But the fact that it linked and it looked like it was real, but it wasn't. It's
That's
one
right.
of those things you always have to ask yourself: is this for real? You know, those situations are happening all over the place.
Right, Greg, I can tell you that cybersecurity and people needing to protect themselves against identity theft, that is one of the biggest trends that all of law enforcement is looking at. In fact, I just came back from a national conference of the other attorneys general from the other states and territories, and that was one of the top subjects that was brought up is how do we stop cybersecurity and the threat of what happens when you give up your personal information.
You know, people have not, to kind of take it full circle, people don't realize how the barriers of distance as a protector for yourself have been brought down by the internet. You are now connected to the entire world and you're at risk from people you've never seen, you've never met, you don't know.
There's a couple takeaways I can think from this, because I really appreciate the conversation that we're having. But I'm thinking, okay, so one thing is never give out your personal information over the phone. Never give out your social security number. You know, just don't do that. You know, that is a big, that's a big red flag. And then the other thing is that if there is a fraud that's perpetrated on you, don't be embarrassed about that. I mean, that it happens to it happens to all of us. You know, that it's a natural human thing to be taken advantage of, and unfortunately, and so. But when that happens, the right thing to do is to report it and to let the authorities know so that it prevents it from happening to somebody else.
Because definitely, if it's happening to you, it's happening to other people.
Right.
Yep.
So, Hugh, on the charity side, any last words?
Do your research. There's abundant information out there available to you about charities that are contacting you. All of their financial and operational data is public record information. You can find out exactly how your money is being spent. Consult our charity registry at the Attorney General's office. And as A.G. Chin said, never give out your bank account information. Never donate in cash. You know, organizations don't ask you to give cash or your banking information.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Mr. Attorney General, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I really appreciate your time, Hugh. Again,
Sure.
thank
you for inviting me.
And thank you for joining us on Is This For Real? Tune in again next time. We'll have some more great information for you. Aloha.